This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. Black Friday Game Day on Prime is an epic day of live sports. It all starts at 9 a.m. Eastern with the Capital One Skins game. Then, Black Friday football returns when the Bears take on the Eagles at 3 p.m. And it culminates with the final night of Emirates NBA Cup group play with Bucks Knicks at 7 p.m. and Mavs Lakers at 10 p.m. Black Friday Game Day, only on Prime.
This episode is presented by State Farm. Having insurance isn't the same as having State Farm. It's like needing the protection of an offensive guard on the football field, but getting an elementary school crossing guard. Sure, they're both guards, but you can only trust one to keep your quarterback safe when the game is on the line. So don't settle for just any insurance when there's State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. Psst, healthcare pros, word's out, and it's too good to keep quiet. Look, LinkedIn is revolutionizing job hunting, making it possible to search by specialty, shift preference, and salary. Endless scrolling is out. Whether it's a mental health therapist or dental hygienist, finding the perfect role is faster and easier than ever. Head to linkedin.com/healthcare and start your search today.
It's the 2015 World Indoor Lacrosse Championship, and there are no empty seats at the On-Center War Memorial Arena in upstate New York. Fans have turned out in droves on this warm September evening in Syracuse to watch the Haudenosaunee Nationals face off against Team USA.
This is one of those games where Tony Resch, the U.S. coach, was saying the U.S. needs to kind of keep the Iroquois in check early, right?
For the first time in its history, this tournament is being hosted on Indigenous land by the Onondaga Nation, one of the original 5 nations of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. Most of the games are taking place on the Onondaga Reservation that's just south of Syracuse and happens to be the birthplace of lacrosse.
On behalf of the Onondaga Nation and the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, I'm very pleased to welcome you, all of you, to these games.
13 national teams are competing for the title, including England, Ireland, Germany, Finland, Canada, Australia, and the United States. But no squad gets the kind of deafening cheers as the Haudenosaunee team, then known as the Iroquois Nationals.
And the home team in tonight's matchup, please welcome the Iroquois Nationals!
The noise is deafening as the team walks into the arena. The stadium seems to be holding many more times its capacity of 7,000 people. And when the much-anticipated match finally begins, the Haudenosaunee team plays like it has a point to prove. And Team USA doesn't stand a chance.
So we have come to the end of regulation, and in one of the most important games of this tournament, the Iroquois Nationals are now set up where they should be able to get directly to the semifinals, while the USA has a tougher road to hoe.
The Haudenosaunee team wins 13-9. At the end of the tournament, the Haudenosaunee takes home the silver after falling to Canada in the gold medal game. The United States wins the bronze. After many generations of outsiders refusing to acknowledge the Indigenous roots of lacrosse, the game has finally returned home. Hey everyone, it's Kavitha Davidson, and welcome to another episode of Sportly. This week, for Native American Heritage Month, we'll dig into the oldest sport in North America, lacrosse. In 2023, the International Olympic Committee announced lacrosse's return for the LA Games in 2028. That decision was more than a programming update. It was a seismic moment for the sport. Lacrosse hasn't been part of the Olympics in more than 7 decades, and it's never appeared in a form that acknowledged or included its Indigenous creators. The sport's return to the world's biggest stage creates a fresh tension. Will the Haudenosaunee, the people who invented it, finally get the chance to play under their own flag? And if they're allowed to, what would it mean for the athletes of Indigenous heritage to finally be able to play under the banner of their own nation? Today, most people picture a very different version of lacrosse than the one Indigenous nations have carried for centuries. In the U.S., the modern version of the sport is often associated with wealthy, white suburban players and elite East Coast programs. Names like Paul Rabiel, the Gate brothers, and Kyle Harrison helped define the sport's mainstream image, while colleges such as Johns Hopkins, Syracuse, Duke, Virginia, and Princeton turned lacrosse into a powerhouse of prep school recruiting and country club culture.
A half century in the making, but the journey is complete. Cornell will bring a championship home to Ithaca.
For many fans, that polished collegiate style is the version of lacrosse they know best. But beneath that polished collegiate image, Indigenous athletes have always been right there, often outplaying and redefining the sport from the inside.
And the dive in the finish by none other than Lyle Thompson.
Today, Haudenosaunee and other Native players compete at top college programs and in professional leagues, carrying a style rooted in creativity, finesse, and speed. Their presence is a reminder that while the mainstream may see lacrosse as an elite sport, its pulse is still driven by the people who've played it the longest. Some of the sport's most electrifying talents are Indigenous. The Thompson Brothers, Lyle, Miles, Jeremy, and Jerome Jr., became household names with highlight reel stick skills and record-breaking seasons at the University of Albany. Lyle Thompson won the Tewaaraton Award twice, that's the sport's top honor, and is widely considered one of the greatest players of all time.
Thompson's gonna shoot and score!
Cody Jamieson dominated at Syracuse before becoming a star in the National Lacrosse League. And Randy Statz and Brendan Bomberry continue to lead in both the indoor and outdoor game. These players are carriers of a tradition, reshaping modern lacrosse while honoring its true history and legacy. Before we get into the real history of lacrosse, let's first talk about who the Haudenosaunee are. The Haudenosaunee Confederacy, sometimes called the Iroquois Confederacy, is currently made up of 6 nations: the Mohawk, Oneida, Onondaga, Cayuga, Seneca, and Tuscarora. Together, they call themselves Haudenosaunee, which means people of the Longhouse. As Denise Waterman of Turtle Clan explains,
people of the Longhouse, in this term, when we talk about the word, means a group of people and a philosophy and a way of life and customs that stretches over hundreds and hundreds of miles. And so that is our Longhouse, Haudenosaunee.
It's a reference to the longhouses their communities lived in, but it's also a political metaphor. Each nation is like a different room in one shared home, united under a system of law, diplomacy, and collective governance that predates the United States. At the start of the episode, you heard the announcers welcome the, quote, Iroquois nation to the stage when they were actually referring to the Haudenosaunee. You see, the word Iroquois isn't their own name for themselves. It's a label given by French settlers, likely adapted from an Algonquin word, an Indigenous group in eastern Canada, and shaped by European mispronunciations. Over time, it became the name used in treaties, Western history books, and early lacrosse coverage. But for the nations within the Confederacy, Haudenosaunee is the name that reflects their identity, their language, and their worldview. And that's why, in 2022, their national lacrosse team officially changed its name from the Iroquois Nationals to the Haudenosaunee Nationals, a reclaiming of who they've always been on their own terms. The first versions of lacrosse stretch back nearly 1,000 years. Games could draw 100 people or tens of thousands, spread across fields so wide they stretched from one village to the next. There was no clock and no neat foul lines. A match could last a single afternoon or roll on for days, depending on what was at stake. The rules were minimal. You didn't touch the ball with your hands, and you played as hard as your body would allow. Everything else was improvisation and instinct. Someone would launch the ball high into the air, and hundreds of players, carrying wooden sticks strung with leather or sinew, would surge forward in a wave. Hips collided, arms tangled, the ground shook. It was wild, beautiful chaos. But beneath the intensity, there was always purpose. In many Haudenosaunee communities, a child receives a lacrosse stick at birth, and when someone passes on, their stick is placed beside them for the journey. That is the arc of connection. From the moment you arrive in this world to the moment you leave it, the game travels with you. It's medicine, a way to heal the sick, settle conflicts, strengthen the young, and unite villages. And the better you played, the harder you ran, the more joy you brought into the game, the more you honored the creator. By the 1600s, European settlers began to notice these massive games. In what is now Canada, Jesuit missionaries watched Native nations play with a mixture of awe and confusion. They didn't grasp the spiritual weight of this game, so they interpreted it through their own lens. One missionary, Jean de Brebeuf, thought the stick resembled a bishop's crozier, a ceremonial staff. So he called the game lacrosse, and the name stuck. European colonists began adopting the sport, reshaping it and eventually formalizing it, even as the original significance continued to live on in the communities who created it. 2 centuries later, lacrosse had changed, but mostly because one man decided it should. Dr. William George Beers, a Montreal dentist with a passion for the sport, campaigned to make lacrosse the national game of Canada. In 1860, he set out to modernize the sport for Western audiences. Beers wrote the earliest known rulebook for what we now call field lacrosse, the outdoor version most people recognize today. And in doing so, he reshaped the game dramatically. Matches that once involved hundreds of players were reduced to just 12 per side. And Indigenous athletes were effectively banned from participating. Beers' guide, Lacrosse, the National Game of Canada, included a rule which stated that, quote, no Indian must play in a match for a white club unless previously agreed upon. But the Haudenosaunee weren't about to fade from the sport they had created. As field lacrosse drifted toward strict rules and elite clubs, they gravitated toward a different style, box lacrosse. Played on hockey rinks that have had their ice either removed or covered, box is fast, tight, and brutally physical, a much closer spiritual match to the original game than Beers' formalized version. It became the discipline Indigenous players embraced the most, and the one where their influence remains unmistakable. Because box is played within the confines of hockey rinks, the spaces are small, so creativity matters just as much as strength. You have to make decisions instantly, protect the ball in traffic, and find passes through impossible angles. Those instincts are exactly the ones Haudenosaunee players grow up honing from a young age. And it's why they're consistently among the best players in the NLL, and why international teams dread seeing them across the floor. For the Haudenosaunee, lacrosse isn't something that they pick up the way most kids start a sport. It's woven into childhood the same way language is. Families pass down handmade wooden sticks. Kids play in driveways and backyards, in the woods, anywhere that there's room to move. And long before anyone talks about scholarships or championships, kids learn the purpose of the game, to honor the creator and to play with joy. As they get older, the structure around them becomes increasingly sophisticated. Every Haudenosaunee community, the Onondaga, Mohawk, Oneida, Seneca, Cayuga, Tuscarora, has its own youth leagues, travel teams, and community tournaments. High school teams on Indigenous land are hardcore talent incubators. Summers are filled with box lacrosse camps and regional competitions where you'll find some of the best players in North America who aren't even old enough to drive. It's not a professional league, but it functions like a national development pipeline. Constant game reps, nonstop competition, and a culture that treats the sport with deep respect. And that culture is a big part of why the Haudenosaunee excel in box lacrosse.
And we offer the World Indoor Lacrosse Championships of 2015 to all in the spirit of healing, in the name of friendship and with the goal of world peace. Go get them. Go get them, boys.
Oren Lyons, faith keeper of the Turtle Clan from the Onondaga Nation, was the one who first brought the Six Nations together to form a team that could represent the Haudenosaunee Confederacy on the international stage. As a child, he stood on the sideline watching his father snap shots into the net with lightning-fast hands. Lacrosse wasn't just a family tradition, it was a way of life. In the 1950s, Oren carried that tradition into the college ranks when Syracuse University recruited him as a goalie, the same position his father had mastered. But decades later, his ambitions shifted from personal success to collective recognition. He wanted a team that could compete in the world arena as Haudenosaunee, not folded into another nation's roster. In 1983, Oren and the Grand Council of the Haudenosaunee founded the Iroquois Nationals men's lacrosse team. It was a landmark moment, the first Indigenous national team recognized in modern sport. His son, Rex Lyons, remembers how deeply the game shaped him from childhood.
It's part of the tapestry of our culture. When I was old enough to walk, I had a stick in my hand. And it really fed my spirit like nothing else that I've ever experienced.
Rex would go on to help fill the team's very first lineup. Their debut season was rocky, but momentum followed. Before the 1984 Olympics in LA, the Nationals defeated England in an exhibition match, though the IOC had barred them from participating in the games themselves. By 1985, the Nationals traveled to England on Haudenosaunee-issued passports and won all but one of their matches. That trip foreshadowed a pattern that would haunt the team for decades. Some countries accepted their passports and others refused. In 2010, the Associated Press reported one of the most high-profile incidents.
It looks like the Iroquois lacrosse team won't be heading to the Lacrosse World Championships in England after all. The British government is refusing to allow the team to travel to England using passports issued by the Iroquois Confederacy.
But still, the Nationals kept pushing. Their breakthrough came in 1990 when the International Lacrosse Federation, now called World Lacrosse, allowed the Iroquois Nationals to play their first international game as a full member nation.
We are truly honored that the Federation of International Lacrosse recognized us as a sovereign nation as we became the fifth member of the Federation in 1987.
It was a landmark moment, the first and only Indigenous nation to be recognized as a sovereign competitive entity in a world sport. That decision meant the Haudenosaunee could compete in official world championships under their own name, flag, and passports, something no other global organization had agreed to. When they were allowed to compete, they saw success, like winning the silver at the 2015 World Indoors and the bronze at the 2018 World Lacrosse Championships. When they were denied entry, they regrouped and tried again. Every border crossed and every border denied affirmed the same message. The Haudenosaunee have always belonged in this sport, and they intend to be part of its future. With LA 2028 on the horizon, the team stands at another threshold, one that could redefine not only their place in the lacrosse world, but their recognition as a sovereign nation.
The Olympics have always symbolized a way to showcase greatness and bring people together. Today, the host city for the 2028 Summer Games cleared the final hurdle to add a mix of 5 sports, old and new.
2023 saw a breakthrough that sent shockwaves through the lacrosse world.
Baseball, softball, flag football, Lacrosse Sixes.
The medicine game will be played in the 2028 Olympic Games in Los Angeles.
But it won't be field lacrosse or box lacrosse. It's a new format called Lacrosse Sixes. Sixes is a fast-paced 6-on-6 version of the sport. It's what World Lacrosse is calling the next generation format. It was designed with purpose, to condense the traditional game into something global audiences could instantly understand and nations with limited resources could actually field. Sixes blends the precision of field lacrosse with the physicality of box, played on a smaller field with a 30-second shot clock, constant transitions, and relentless scoring. In other words, it's lacrosse refined for the Olympic stage, accessible, fast, and broadcast friendly. As the 2028 LA Games approach, the question at the heart of this story remains: will the Haudenosaunee finally be able to play lacrosse under their own flag in the Olympics? And this isn't just a symbolic ask. In January 2025, the governments of both the United States and Canada jointly called on the International Olympic Committee to grant the Haudenosaunee Confederacy an exception to its usual rules and allow them to compete as a standalone team.
Their ancestors invented the game. They perfected it for millennia. Their circumstances are unique, and they should be granted an exception to field their own team at the Olympics.
As recently as July, a group of Republican New York State senators formally wrote to the IOC urging the inclusion of the Haudenosaunee in the Games. To date, the IOC's official position has been that it won't include Indigenous teams and that members of the Haudenosaunee who want to compete can do so as part of either Team USA or Team Canada. You see, the IOC's eligibility rules require a country to have UN recognition and an IOC-recognized National Olympic Committee, and the Haudenosaunee don't have one. Granting them entry would open the door to a precedent the IOC has historically tried to avoid, and it would reshape how they handle national representation. There are some options here. If the IOC won't grant the Haudenosaunee an outright exception, it could invite them to play not under their own flag, but under the Olympic flag, as the refugee Olympic team does. Before she was elected president of the IOC in June, Kirsty Coventry said she'd be willing to meet with the Haudenosaunee if she won. And until those discussions, Indigenous players remain in a holding pattern. Haudenosaunee athletes have already said that they won't play for Team USA or Team Canada. For one, their nation spans the land of both countries. They're not separated by the same borders. And they also hold their own passports and maintain that they're a sovereign nation with treaties with the US, Great Britain, and France, even if many other countries don't recognize them as such.
Yeah, right now the team is ranked third in the world behind the US and Canada.
For the Haudenosaunee, this isn't just about the sport. Their fight for Olympic inclusion mirrors their broader fight for political recognition, for sovereignty, and for justice. Winning on this field would mean more than a medal. It would mean playing the creators' game under their own flag on the world's biggest stage. So the question remains, will the IOC take that historic step? Thanks so much for tuning into Sportly. Tune in next week and every week after as we dive into another great story. And if you have thoughts or suggestions for a topic you'd like me to cover, I'd love to hear from you. Please feel free to email me at kavitha@immigrantlypod.com. And if you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review us on your favorite podcast app. Sportly is an Immigrantly Media production. This episode was produced by Paroma Chakravarti. Written by Irene Bentige. Our executive producer is Sadia Khan. Our sound designer and editor is Paroma Chakravarti. Our theme music was created by Simon Hutchinson, other music by Epidemic Sound. Tune back in next week and every week after for more Sportly.